Hey, this is Wh1tcomb again. Today I'm going to talk about taking a 8 to 16 bar loop and building it out into a full song. I think a lot of people get stuck at this part. You know, you have a really cool sounding loop and you can't figure out how to turn it into a whole song. So hopefully this helps you to get past that hump. So just to start, I'll show you what I have here, and I'll show you my 16 bar loop. Okay, so as you can tell, we're working with dubstep. That's usually what I'm making. But you can see at the top here, I have this green thing called drop. And if I zoom out, you'll notice I have a lot more of them. And it's just a MIDI track with just blank clips that I've created to provide a framework for myself. Now, I just did this using just a standard electronic music formula. We have a 16 bar intro, 7 bar build, 1 bar pre-drop, 16 bar drop, 16 bar switch, and then repeating the breakdown all the way to the drop switches from the same thing from this to here, and then an outro. Now you can listen to a bunch of other electronic songs and figure out which format you like. This is just the format I've chosen. The key thing here, and with most electronic music that you want to be DJ friendly, is that you want everything to be in chunks of 8, 16, or 32 bars. And then the other key thing is with your build and your pre-drops, you want to make sure that you're falling within that. So for example, here we have a build that's 7 bars and a pre-drop that's 1, so it's falling within the 8 bar segment. Okay, so now that we have that framework, what we're going to do is we're going to take my 16 bar loop, which just happens to be a drop. It doesn't have to be a drop, it could be whatever your loop is, and then you're going to duplicate it out, right? So I'm duplicating that out. Okay, now I'm going to start removing it from it. Starting in the intro, I'm going to get rid of everything except the kick and the snare. Okay, and then I'm going to have some other pieces come in, you know, halfway into the intro. That'll be 8 bars in. So I'm going to get rid of the sub bass and the effects. And let's see, basses. Let's get rid of this bass. But then we'll leave this graveyard style bass. It's just kind of a hit. And then I'm going to get rid of all my mids. Okay. And here's that bass I'm talking about here. So then on the build, I'm going to get rid of pretty much all the same stuff that I got rid of for the drop, but the key thing here on the build is that I'm going to do kind of, you might call it a roll. So I'm going to have this come in, and then we're going to start duplicating it, so it's going to go double time, right? And I would do something with the snare. I'm not going to do it now just for time's sake. But then we could do something similar with this pre-drop hit, where we would duplicate it out just like I did the drums, so it's, you know, replicating. Eventually I'd put a riser in there, maybe some white noise. And if I wasn't, you know, short on time for a tutorial, I would show that, but that's an idea. You'd also put those in there as well. And then the final thing we want to do here is this pre-drop hit. We're going to want to clear this out completely, so it's just blank. And then we're gonna put in, you know, a drum hit, a vocal hit, maybe a sub hit, something in there to leave a gap and make sure that we come in right here on that 25. Okay, So now for the drop, we're going to take this and we're going to replicate it out. Oops. Replicate this out, and let's see. I'm not going to go through doing an entire drop switch on here, but for the sake of the tutorial, let's just switch up the drum pattern a little bit. So we're gonna do this. Say that'll work. Okay. So then I'll get rid of this. Okay, and that leaves us with two different drop sections. Ideally, they'd be completely different, but when you're just setting up your skeleton, you just want to let yourself know that, hey, this has got to sound different. So here's what the main drop sounds like. And then with the different drums, it sounds like this. Okay, cool. So now we're going to take this framework or skeleton. You might hear me refer to it as both. And then we're going to duplicate. Oops, we're going to copy. Oh, there you go, that works. So I just duplicated it, right? Sometimes I also might do a breakdown that's going to be 8 bars instead of 16, just so it gets back to the good parts quicker. Well, at least what I think is the good parts. And then for the outro, let's just do the intro again. But we'd probably flip it around. So we'll take these, cut them, and do that. Okay, so as you can see, now I have a framework and I can go from there. And I started out with just a 16-bar loop, but I've taken that 16-bar loop and I've built it into a skeleton. So technically we could say I have a complete song, or at least the bones of a complete song. And now I can go down, add stuff to the intro so it's not just kick and snare. I can make the drop switch sound better. I can go through this build and pre-drop, and I can actually, add a riser, add white noise. I can go to the second drop and the drop switch, and I can make them the exact same as these two, or I completely switch them up so it keeps the listeners interested. So if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful.